co-host.
Co-host. Hi.
There we are.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, welcome everyone to the October AKR Forum. I'm Maria Peterson, President of the American Kyudo Renmei. I would like to welcome Professor Goka back for a second lecture in his series of Kyudo development. Last month, we heard from him about Kyudo development post-World War II. Today is going to be Kyudo development pre-World War II. Goka-san, off to you.
Okay. Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. My name is Goka from International Budo University. Continuing from last session, I will be in charge of the lecture. So today's topic is Kyudo development pre-World War II. Especially, I will focus on the transition from Bujutsu and Kyujutsu to Budo and Kyudo.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Dr. Goka y continuaremos con la serie de ¿Qué pasó con el Kyudo? En el tema de hoy vamos a hablar sobre el desarrollo antes de la guerra y cómo nos vamos a enfocar en la transición de Bujutsu a Kyujutsu y de Budo a Kyudo.
Firstly, I will overview the situation of Kyujutsu after the Meiji Restoration. With the Meiji Restoration in 1868, Japanese society underwent major transformation. It made great impact on Bujutsu as samurai era was ended up, and Budo, including Kyujutsu, were regarded as useless things. Then, how Kyujutsu survived in modern society.
En primer lugar, haré un repaso de la situación del Kyujutsu después de la restauración Meiji. Con la restauración del Meiji en 1868, la sociedad japonesa sufrió una gran transformación. Tuvo un gran impacto en el Bujutsu, ya que la era samurái se había terminado y el Budo, incluyendo el Kyujutsu, fue considerado como algo inútil. Entonces, ¿cómo sobrevivió el Kyujutsu en la sociedad moderna?
Secondly, let's talk about the formation of Budo. Bujutsu, Buge, has long tradition and historical background. However, Budo was created in modern era. It is considered invented tradition. Then, how Kyudo became one of the disciplines of Budo.
En segundo lugar, hablemos de la formación del Budo. El Bujutsu o Bugei tiene una larga tradición y antecedentes históricos, pero el Budo fue creado en la era moderna y se considera una tradición inventada. Entonces, ¿cómo se convirtió el Kyudo en una de las disciplinas del Budo?
Thirdly, I'm going to show you the change from Kyujutsu to Kyudo. Generally speaking, Kyujutsu is the word described Japanese traditional archery before the early modern period. And Kyudo is after the modern era. It implies Kyudo was developed from Kyujutsu. However, from historical point of view, it is not simple. So let me explain about the historical process of the change from Kyujutsu to Kyudo. By the way, in this presentation, when I say modern era, it means from 1868 Meiji Restoration to 1948, which is end of World War II.
En tercer lugar, voy a mostrarles el cambio de Kyujutsu a Kyudo. En términos generales, el Kyujutsu es la palabra que describe la arquería tradicional japonesa antes del periodo moderno temprano, y Kyudo es después de la era moderna. Esto implica que el Kyudo se desarrolló a partir del Kyujutsu. Sin embargo, desde el punto de vista histórico es más complejo. Así que permítame explicar el proceso histórico del cambio de Kyujutsu a Kyudo. Por cierto, en esta presentación, cuando digo era moderna, significa desde la restauración Meiji de 1868 hasta el final de la Segunda Guerra Mundial en 1945.
So today I will now talk about the modernization of Kyudo. But when we talk about the modernization of Kyudo, what is it? It is hard to say because there are a lot of things should be considered. If I were to take up the specific contents of the modernization of Kyudo, I would point out the points shown on the slide. So first 3 points are main topics in today's presentation. Following 2 will be discussed a little bit. So name change from Kyudo to Kyudo became a modern Japanese martial arts, Budo disciplines, and emphasize cultivationism and spiritual. modern federation, and grading system done in Q and Shogo. A list of 5 contents I would like to talk to you if there is another opportunity.
Ahora hablaré sobre la modernización del Kyudo. ¿Pero qué es la modernización del Kyudo? Es difícil decir porque hay muchas cosas que deben ser consideradas. Si tuviera que retomar los contenidos específicos de la modernización del Kyudo, señalaría los puntos que se muestran en la diapositiva. Los 3 primeros puntos son el tema principal de la presentación de hoy. Los 2 siguientes se discutirán poco a poco y el resto de los 5 puntos me gustaría hablar con ustedes si hay otra oportunidad en el futuro.
How did Kyujutsu survive after the Meiji Restoration? So inheritance of the Kyujutsu. In order to know the situation of Kyujutsu before and after the Meiji Restoration, I should start to talk about the diplomatic relations between Japan and the United States. In 1853, Perry came to Japan, pushed for the opening of Japan. Next year, 1854, Perry came again and resulting in the conclusion of the treaty between the United States of America and the Empire of Japan. After Perry came to Japan, the issue of JOI, which is the principle of excluding foreigners, arose, which results rapid reinforcement of national defense capabilities. Edo shogunate and feudal rulers had rapidly westernized their forces.
Para conocer la situación del Kyujutsu antes y después de la restauración Meiji, debo de hablarles de las relaciones diplomáticas entre Japón y Estados Unidos. En 1853, el comodoro Perry fue a Japón e impulsó la apertura de Japón. El año siguiente, en 1854, Perry fue de nuevo, lo que resultó en la conclusión del Tratado de Estados Unidos de América y el Imperio de Japón. Después de la llegada de Perry a Japón, surgió la cuestión del JOI, el principio de exclusión de los extranjeros, que da lugar a un rápido refuerzo de las capacidades de defensa nacional. El shogunato Edo y los señores feudales habían occidentalizado rápidamente sus fuerzas. En 1862, el Kyujutsu fue abolido en el shogunato de Edo. Se introdujo el sistema militar occidental y el tiro con arco del Kyujutsu fue sustituido por el arma de fuego. Al mismo tiempo, todos los eventos relacionados con el Kyujutsu también fueron abolidos y el Kyujutsu como asignatura en el Kobusho, que es la Academia Militar del Shogunato de Edo, desaparece. Puedo decir que en 1862 es una época para la historia del Kyujutsu. En 1862, la restauración Meiji es el fin de la era samurái.
In 1862, Kyujutsu was abolished in Edo Shogunate. A Western military system was introduced and Kyujutsu archery was replaced by gun. Same time, all events related with Kyujutsu was also abolished and Kyujutsu as a subject in Kobusho, Kobusho, which is a military academy of Edo Shogunate, was gone. I can say 1862 is an epoch for Kyujutsu history. And in 1868, Meiji Restoration was happened, which means the end of samurai era. So Japan had rapidly modernized, which is almost equal to westernized.
Next one.
Okay. So Kyujutsu was abolished not only by Edo Shogunate, but also by various domains. This slide shows you the ratio of Bujutsu training hours in Hangaku. Hangaku was an educational institution that each domain established for the education of its retainers, younger people. In Hangaku, various Bujutsu were taught. Of course, Kyujutsu was included. Kyujutsu practice peaked between 1844 to 1860. It was a time Perry came to Japan and rapid reinforcement of defense capabilities was required. At first, Kyujutsu was thought to be an important element for the strengthening military power along with spears, swords, and gunnery. However, they soon realized that archery was useless against foreign armies, which focused on firearms. Many domains abolished archery and converted to gunnery. After the Meiji Restoration, Kyujutsu completely disappeared from Hangaku.
El Kyujutsu fue abolido no solo por el shogunato Edo, sino también por varios dominios. Esta diapositiva muestra la proporción de horas de entrenamiento del Gyujutsu en el Hangaku. El Hangaku era una institución educativa que cada dominio establecía para la educación de los jóvenes, y en el Hangaku se enseñaba varias cosas, como el Gyujutsu, el Kyujutsu, y el Kyujutsu estaba incluido. La práctica del Kyujutsu alcanzó su punto máximo entre 1844 y 1860. Fue la época en la que el comodoro Perry llegó a Japón y se requería un rápido refuerzo de capacidades de defensa nacional. Al principio se pensó que el Kyujutsu era un elemento importante para reforzar el poder militar, junto con las lanzas, espadas y la artillería. Sin embargo, se dieron cuenta de que la arquería era inútil en contra de los ejércitos extranjeros, pues se centraban en las armas de fuego. Muchos dominios abolieron la arquería y se convirtieron a la artillería. Tras la restauración Meiji, el Kyujutsu desapareció por completo.
I just want to add one more thing. So this table is from the book written by Mr. Professor Imamura. So he researched a few hundreds domains, Hangaku, and made the average. So this is the average of the training hours in few hundreds domains.
Esta tabla es una proporción de Imamura, del profesor Imamura, de 1989.
So how did Kyujutsu continue after the Meiji Restoration? First of all, it was Yaba that became common and popular in the society. So Yaba is the place for the leisure, recreation, and bow and arrow as a tool for pleasure already existed among the common people before the Meiji Restoration. And gambling, archery, halls as public resorts were very popular in urban areas after the revolution. Of course, those Yaba, the most of Yaba were using small bow and arrow, which are different from what we are using now. But some Yaba also using the daikyu, which is like the bow and arrow, which we are now using, like 2.2 meter and roughly 1 meter arrows. Of course, the archery played at Yaba is different from Kyujutsu. However, the many Japanese people, due to the influence of Yaba, thought that the Kyujutsu is a tool for the recreation. So, what Kyujutsu at the time did was they trying to remove the image of Yaba. And then they found that the value of Kyujutsu, such as health, physical training, and exercise. The bottom part is one of the articles from the Yomiuri newspaper in 1891, talking about the benefits of Kyujutsu. You can clearly see that at that time, the Kyujutsuka trying to make the Kyujutsu like for the health, physical training, and exercise. So that is the first way how the Kyujutsu at the time try to keep the tradition of the Kyujutsu.
Entonces, ¿cómo continuó el Kyujutsu después de la restauración Meiji? En primer lugar, fue el Yaba el que hizo común y popular en la sociedad. El arco y la flecha como herramienta de placer ya existían en la gente común antes de la restauración Meiji, y en las salas de tiro con arco en los centros públicos eran muy populares en las zonas urbanas después de la revolución. La mayoría de los Yabas utilizaban arcos y flechas pequeños que son diferentes a los que utilizamos ahora, pero algunos utilizaban daikyu, que son con las mismas proporciones que los que conocemos ahora. Por supuesto, el tiro con arco que se practicaba en Yaba es diferente del Kyujutsu. Muchos pensaban que el Kyujutsu era una herramienta de recreación. Lo que hizo que el Kyujutsuka en ese momento fue tratar de eliminar la imagen del Yaba, y encontraron que el valor del Kyujutsu sería como salud, entrenamiento físico o ejercicio. En un ejemplo en la presentación tenemos el periódico Yomiuri de 1891 en el que explica su valor en la sociedad moderna.
And this trend changed greatly with the establishment of Dai Nippon Butokukai. Dai Nippon Butokukai is the largest Bujutsu Budo organization in modern era, established in 1895 in Kyoto. Dai Nippon Butokukai was managing various Bujutsu and Budo, such as Judo, Kendo, Kyudo, Naginata, etc. So now it's different from current Budo organization. Currently, we have a Budo organization separately. So Judo Federation, Kendo Federation, and Kyudo Federation. However, before the World War II, there was a Dai Nippon Butokukai, and this organization managing the various Budo. One of the biggest influences on the development and the popularization of the concept Budo was the Dai Nippon Butokukai. With the establishment of the Dai Nippon Butokukai, the social recognition of Bujutsu has increased dramatically.
Esta tendencia cambió mucho con la creación de la Dai Nippon Butokukai. Esta es la mayor organización de Bujutsu o Budo del Japón moderno. La DNBK gestiona diversos Bujutsus como el Judo, Kendo, Kyudo, Naginata, etc. Esta es una de las mayores influencias en el desarrollo y la popularización del concepto del Budo. Esto se le atribuye a la Dai Nippon Butokukai. Con el establecimiento de esta... el reconocimiento social de Bujutsu aumenta dramáticamente.
So in Japanese society, the people started identify the Bujutsu, and some evaluated the Bujutsu. However, in the beginning, in Dai Nippon Butokukai, there was a hierarchy of Bujutsu in that organization. During the time when the Butokukai still used Bujutsu as the standard phrase, there was a ranking of skills in place that was decided by military utility. Specifically, these skills in order were marksmanship, shateki jutsu, horsemanship, bajutsu, ballistics, juken jutsu, swordmanship, kenjutsu, and jujutsu, and swimming, suiren jutsu, and bottle rolling, sortie. Skills that could be utilized in modern warfare were deemed high rank and were encouraged. So now you can see that the definition of the Bujutsu is different from what we are thinking now. So those like Shateki Jutsu or Bajutsu, those are thought the important Bujutsu at that time. Unfortunately, as Kyujutsu became obsolete in the military, it came to be perceived as an ancient martial arts, which was called Kobugei. It was believed to be an art that should be preserved, but few efforts were made to promote it.
Al principio había una jerarquía de Bujutsu en la DNBK. Durante esa época, la Butokukai todavía utilizaba el Bujutsu como frase estándar. Exigía una clasificación de habilidades que se decidía por la utilidad militar. En concreto, estas habilidades eran en el orden puntería, shateki, equitación, bajutsu, balística, jijou, la esgrima, kenjutsu, jujutsu, la natación suiren y remo soutei. Las habilidades que podían utilizarse en la guerra moderna se consideraban de alto rango y se fomentaban. Lamentablemente, cuando el Kyujutsu quedó obsoleto en el ejército, pasó a ser percibido como un arte marcial antiguo, Kobugei, y se creía que era un arte que debía preservarse, pero se hicieron pocos esfuerzos para promover eso.
Right above material is one of the examples that shows the situation of Kyujutsu in Dai Nippon Butokai at that time. It was written by Mr. Takashi Kawashima. He was Kendo Kyoshi in Dai Nippon Butokai at that time, and later he also became Kyudo Hanshi in Dai Nippon Butokai. He mentioned that in 1912, when he visited Dai Nippon Butokai headquarters in Kyoto, he watched the Kyudo and he was surprised at how small the dojo, Kyudojo was, and less participants and less young archers. And he also identified that the Kyujutsu was the subject which should be preserved. And also, he thought that the Kyujutsu is a truly plastic existence. The picture shows you the Kyudojo at the time in Dai Nippon Butokai. By the way, now we are very get used to use like one archer for one mato, like we say mochimato. But traditionally, the archer should put only one target on azuchi, as you can see this picture. And 3, 4, 5 archers shoot one target only. So the shape of azuchi is also different, as you can see the right side picture. This kind of like azuchi is called the kamaboko gata azuchi, which means a fish cake shaped, like hawk-backed. No, so yes.
Este es un ejemplo que muestra el saludo del Kyujutsu en la Dai Nippon Butokai en ese momento. Este fue escrito por el señor Takashi Kawashima. Él era el Kendo Kyudo de la DNBK en ese momento, pero más tarde también se convirtió en un Hanshi de la DNBK. Él observó que en mayo de 1912, cuando fue al torneo de Kendo de la sede de Kyoto en Butokai, observa Kyudo. Lo sorprende lo pequeño que es el dojo, los menos participantes y que no hay casi jóvenes. También habían llegado... estaba en ese momento el mejor torneo en Japón, que era en un dojo. Y en aquella época el Kyujutsu era tratado por separado del Kendo, del Judo, como un Budo preservado. Él nota que el Kyujutsu tiene una existencia verdaderamente patética. Si se fijan en las fotos, también menciona que antes solo se ponía un blanco y se tiraban de 3 a un solo blanco y que la forma de ese azuchi también tiene un nombre específico que es el fish cake shape. Okay. La cara de un pastel de pescado.
Okay, so now how the Kyudo became like a Budo. So now I have to talk about a Jutsu to Do. With the onset of the modern era, the word Budo became the general terminology for arts such as Judo, Kendo, Kyudo, etc. One of the biggest influences on the development and popularization of this concept of Budo was the Dai Nippon Butokai. This expansion was achieved in great part due to the efforts of Mr. Hiromichi Nishikubo, who was principal of the Bujutsu Senmon Gakko and vice president of the Dai Nippon Butokai. Initially, Bujutsu was a general term used by the Dai Nippon Butokai, but in the eyes of Nishikubo, the word Jutsu seemed overly concerned with victory and heavily biased towards technique. He insisted on using Budo, his reason being Budo is not only a more noble term, but is also more representative of the primary goals of Bushido. In 1919, when Nishikubo assumed the position of principal of Bujutsu Senmon Gakko and vice president of the Butokai, he formally changed the school's name to Budo Senmon Gakko. Furthermore, he revised rules and regulations so that all Bujutsu would be officially denoted as Budo. Jujutsu, Kenjutsu, and Kyujutsu would become Judo, Kendo, and Kyudo, respectively. From then on, the words Budo became the standard terminology within the Butokai, and the value of Budo as mental disciplines increased. At this time, Budo was starting to become the most common terminology in general. This established a foundation for the very concept of Budo.
Con el inicio de la era moderna, la palabra Budo se convirtió en la terminología general para las artes como el judo, kendo, kyudo, etc. Una de las mayores influencias en el desarrollo y la popularización de este concepto de Budo fue de la Dai Nippon Butokukai. Esta expansión se logró en gran parte gracias a los esfuerzos de Hiromichi Nishikubo, que fue el director de la Bujutsu Senmongako y vicepresidente de la Botokukai. Inicialmente, Bujutsu era el término general utilizado por la Dai Nippon Botokukai, pero a los ojos de Nishikubo, la palabra jutsu parecía demasiado preocupada por la victoria y no muy inclinada hacia la técnica. Insistió en utilizar Budo. Su razón es que Budo no solo es un término más noble, sino que también es más representativo de los objetivos principales del Bushido. En 1919, cuando Nishikubo asumió el cargo del director de Bujutsu Senmongako y vicepresidente de la Botokukai, cambió formalmente el nombre de la escuela por el de Budo Senmongako. Además, revisó las normas y reglamentos para que todo el Bujutsu se denominara oficialmente Budo. El Jujutsu, Kenjutsu, Kyujutsu se convertirían en Judo, Kendo y Kyudo respectivamente. A partir de entonces, la palabra Budo se convirtió en la terminología estándar dentro del Butokukai, y el valor de Budo como disciplina mental aumentó. En esta época, el Budo empezaba a convertirse en la terminología más común en general. Esto sentó las bases del concepto propio del Budo.
During the time when the Butokukai still used Bujutsu as the standard phrase, there was a ranking of skills in place that was decided by military utility, as I mentioned before. Surprisingly, in 1919, after Bujutsu became Budo, Dai Nippon Butokukai elected to rewrite their policies that emphasized this military ranking. Then, at the 1921 permanent committee meeting, the decision was made to encourage Kendo, Judo, Kyudo as the main disciplines of Budo. As a result of this, Kyudo returned from being treated as an ancient art to being treated as a respectable Budo, even to the same extent as Kendo and Judo. In the Butokukai, because Kyudo became regarded as Budo, more changes followed. Firstly, in 1921, it was scrapped that competition for the first place and awarding of prizes in Dai Nippon Butokukai biggest demonstration, Dai Enbukai. It dispelled the image of being obsessed with winning. 1923, a Dankyu grading system was introduced to Kyudo. Kyudo in Dai Nippon Butokukai did not have grading system before 1923, though Judo and Kyudo from the beginning. So there was 28 years gap between Kyudo and Judo Kendo. In 1928, a Grand Kyudojo was constructed at the Butokukai headquarters in Kyoto. From 1919 onwards, the Butokukai changed the standard terminology from Bujutsu to Budo. Simultaneously, Kyudo itself was re-evaluated and began to be considered as Budo, much like Kendo and Judo.
Durante la época en la que la Butokukai todavía utilizaba el Bujutsu como frase estándar, existía una clasificación de habilidades que se decidía por la unidad militar, como lo he mencionado. Sorprendentemente, en 1919, después de que el Bujutsu se convirtiera en Budo, la Butokukai elige reescribir sus políticas que enfatizan esta clasificación militar. Entonces, en la reunión del Comité Permanente en 1921, se toma la decisión de fomentar el Kendo, Judo y Kyudo como disciplinas principales del Budo. Como resultado de esto, el Kyudo pasa a ser tratado como un arte antiguo a ser tratado como un Budo respetable, incluso al mismo nivel que el Kendo y el Judo. En el Butokukai, debido a que el Kyudo pasó a ser considerado Budo, se produjeron más cambios. En 1921 se suprime que la finalización para el primer puesto y la concesión de premios de la Dai Nippon Botokukai para la mayor demostración Dai Enbu, y esto disipa la imagen de estar obsesionados con ganar. En 1923, un sistema de clasificación Dankyu se introduce en el Kyudo. El Kyudo en la Dai Nippon Butokukai no tenía sistema de clasificación antes de 1923, aunque sí el Judo y el Kendo a principios. Fueron 28 años de diferencia entre ellos. En 1928 se construye el Gran Kyudoyo en la sede del Butokukai en Kioto. Este dojo a gran escala tenía capacidad para más de 7 personas que estuvieran de pie en el shai, y a la vez contaba con un área de visión de jueces y tenía instalaciones adecuadas para exhibiciones imperiales. En la ceremonia de inauguración del dojo, Fusataro Hongo, presidente de la Butokukai, dijo que el Kyudo se centra en el entrenamiento de la mente a través del entrenamiento del cuerpo. A partir de 1919, la Butokukai cambia la terminología estándar de Bujutsu a Budo y simultáneamente. El propio Kyudo se revaloriza y empieza a considerarse como Budo, igual que el Kendo y el Judo.
This is a picture of the Dai Nippon Butokai Honbu headquarter Kyudojo, newly built in 1928. This large-scale dojo has a capacity for more than 7 people to stand at shai, the shooting line at one time, featured a judge viewing area, and had facilities suitable for imperial exhibitions. At the dojo's opening ceremony, Mr. Fusataro Hongo, who was the president of the Dai Nippon Butokai at that time, he said that Kyudo is focusing on training the mind through training of the body. So we can clearly see from his speech that the Kyudo was re-evaluated as a Budo.
Okay, next one.
Okay. Okay, so let's start with the topic of the post. Let's start to talk about the conceptual difference of the Kyudo and Kyujutsu. In 1990, under the leadership of Nishikubo, the Dai Nippon Butokai went from recognizing Bujutsu as the official terminology to adopting the term Budo. However, the historical significance of this was the conceptual distinction between Bujutsu and Budo. Bujutsu gives the impression of focusing primarily on skill and victory, while Budo has become something more sanctified, which involves training the mind and spirit as well as focus on ethics. For this reason, Budo is thought to be more advanced and sophisticated than Bujutsu. Due to the influence of this concept of Budo, Kyujutsu and Kyudo are viewed as distinct things, and many Kyudoka have come to encourage the use of Kyudo. However, we have to be careful the difference between Jutsu and Do. What Mr. Nishikubo wanted to mention was it was a synchronous oppositional concept used to emphasize difference in practitioner behavior. It does not explain historical changes. So he basically tried to intention to progress from Budo to Budo.
En esta diapositiva podemos observar las diferencias en los términos de los conceptos Jutsu y Do. Uno es el Jutsu, la violencia, habilidad, victoria, recreación y entretenimiento, y el Do es una disciplina mental en el cuerpo, que utiliza el cuerpo, donde prende esa etiqueta y es más sagrado. Por otro lado, no todos los kyudokas están influenciados por este concepto, así es que se les pide o se les que empiecen a utilizar el concepto de Kyudo. En aquella época, además de la Butokukai, había otras organizaciones de Kyudo que se estaban expandiendo por todo el país y no necesariamente eran capaces de controlar a todos los kyudoka de Japón. En este momento, el mayor rival de la Butokukai era la Dai Nippon Kyudokai. La Kyudokai también se le conocía como la Dai Nippon Kyujutsukai, pero en 1919 toman la decisión de utilizar también Kyudo. Dentro de la Dai Nippon Kyudokai se creía que el Kyujutsu era el elemento del Kyudo.
On the other hand, not all Kyudoka were influenced by the concept of Budo according to the Butokukai. At that time, besides the Butokukai, there were several other Kyudo organizations that were expanding all over the country, and they were not necessarily able to command all the Kyudoka in Japan. At that time, the Butokai's biggest rival was the Dai Nippon Kyudokai, which is another Kyudo organization at that time. The Kyudokai, too, was once known as the Dai Nippon Kyujutsukai. but in 1919, they made the decision to use Kyudo as well. So they changed the name from Dai Nippon Kyujutsu-kai to Dai Nippon Kyudo-kai. Within the Dai Nippon Kyudo-kai, it was believed that Kyujutsu was an element of the Kyudo. So as you can see, this schematics, Kyujutsu is included in Kyudo.
Creo que iba adelantada una diapositiva, pero ya les traduje esta parte.
Aside from this, more differences arise even outside Budokai and Dai Nippon Kyudo-kai. In school Kyudo groups, the way of understanding Kyujutsu and Kyudo differed greatly depending on school. For example, preparatory school, Daini Koto Gakko regards Kyujutsu as a recreational physical activity, while Kyudo is regarded as a mental activity meant to develop one's character. For these reasons, for the transition to using Kyudo was strongly advocated. On the other hand, at Keio University, Kyudo, which was excessively focused on the spiritual aspect, was criticized, since it was thought that Kyujutsu originally included the meaning of spiritually, the physical body, and technique. For this school in particular, the name Kyujutsu Club is being used even today.
Aparte de esto, surgen más diferencias incluso fuera de la Butoku-kai y de la Dai Nippon Kyudo-kai. Dentro de los grupos de Kyudo en las escuelas, la forma de entender el Kyujutsu y el Kyudo difieren mucho según cada escuela. Por ejemplo, la escuela preparatoria Dai Nikko Kugako considera que el Kyujutsu como actividad física recreativa, mientras que el Kyudo se considera una actividad mental destinada a desarrollar el propio carácter. Por estas razones se defiende firmemente la tradición al uso de el término Kyudo. Por otro lado, en la Universidad de Keio se criticó el Kyudo, que se centraba excesivamente en el aspecto espiritual, ya que se pensaba que el Kyujutsu incluía originalmente el significado de la espiritualidad, el cuerpo físico y la técnica. Para esta escuela en particular, el nombre Club Kyujutsu se utiliza aún hoy en día.
So now you can see that the various definition of the Kyujutsu and Kyudo was formed in modern era. However, in terms of actual usage of Kyudo, the word itself, it is shown as this slide. So first appearance on Japanese dictionary of the Kyudo, the words, was in 1907. It is interesting that from a retail standpoint, the definition of Kyudo is one of the Japanese Budo and Kyujutsu, according to the average Japanese language dictionary. Now, Kyudo and Kyujutsu have been defined synonymously. On the contrary, Judo is defined as a modernized sport derived from Jujutsu, and Kendo as an indoor sport developed from Dojo Kenjutsu. Newspaper from 1920 on Asahi newspaper, Kyudo became the common term on the article. 1924 on the Yomiuri newspaper. School Kyudo Club, Kyudo Club first appearance was in 1911. And Kyudo book is from 1918.
En esta diapositiva podemos observar en qué años empezó a utilizar generalmente ya el término Kyudo. En cuanto al uso, la aparición en el primer diccionario japonés fue en 1907 como jirin. Es interesante que desde el punto de vista literal, la definición de Kyudo es uno de los budos japoneses Kyujutsu, según el diccionario promedio de la lengua japonesa. Kyudo y Kyujutsu se definen como sinónimos. Por el contrario, el judo se define como un deporte modernizado derivado del jujutsu, y el kendo como un deporte de interior desarrollado a partir del dojo kenjutsu. Esto es del periódico Asahi en 1920, en donde empiezan a utilizar el término Kyudo en sus artículos. El primer club de Kyudo fue en 1911 y la primera aparición del término como Kyudo fue en el libro de Kyudo Book, 1918.
This is last right. So as such, if we consider the transition from Kyudo to Kyudo from a historical point of view, we can understand that there was a multitude of factors at play, not just one. Within the Budokai, Kyudo and Kyudo are considered clearly distinct concepts, but the Kyudo-kai, Dai Nippon Kyudo-kai, recognizes Kyujutsu as an element of Kyudo. On the contrary, in educational settings, Kyudo is regarded as a practice that strengthens the mind. Yet other schools criticize this idea and believe that the term Kyujutsu should be preserved. Each idea had its own reasoning, and while there were multiple parallel themes, the shift from Kyudo to Kyudo was made. So when we look at the history of the Kyudo to Kyudo, it is not very simple. It's kind of like a multi-layers and complex, transition. So now I can summarize like that way.
Ok, este es el resumen. Por lo tanto, si consideramos la transición del Kyujutsu al Kyudo desde el punto de vista histórico, podemos entender que hubo múltiples factores en el juego, no solo uno. Dentro del Butokukai, el Kyujutsu y el Kyudo se consideran conceptos claramente diferenciados, pero el Kyudo-kai reconoce que el Kyujutsu como elemento de un Kyudo. Por el contrario, en el ámbito educativo, el Kyudo se considera una práctica que fortalece la mente. Sin embargo, hay escuelas que critican la idea y creen que el término Kyujutsu debe de conservarse. Cada idea tiene su propio razonamiento detrás y aunque hay múltiples temas paralelos, se produce de todas maneras el cambio del uso del término de Kyujutsu a Kyudo.
Right, thank you very much for your listening. And I exceed the time a little bit, now 43 minutes. So now I want to move on to the Q&A session. So any question and comments, I'm really appreciate to get it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Goka, and thank you, Erica from Mexico, for the Spanish translations. If people have questions, please drop them into the chat, and we will read them off and ask for your answers. Okay, just a comment so far from Ed Sims saying wonderful information, especially those of us who came to Kyudo from another culture outside of Japan. Steve Scott has asked, what role did Honda Toshizane play in this era?
本田利実が果たした役割、日本語でいいですか？じゃあ、本田利実が果たした役割というのは、非常に、評価されている、オーバーリアクティングされているケースがあると私は思っています。本田利実が具体的に果たした役割を挙げるとすれば、本田利実という人がいるんですね。というのは非常に難しいと思います。一般的には、例えば射砲の面で正面撃ち起こしを正面撃ち起こしが、もともと日本の技術というのは斜面撃ち起こしをやってたんですが、正面撃ち起こしが普及した理由は本田利実だというふうに言う人もいるんですね。ただそれの証明はされてないんですよ。頑張って答えます。Alright, sorry. So first question is, what role did Honda Toshizane play in this area? So I understand some of the Kyudo archers who knows a little bit about the history. Honda Toshizane is considered very important person in that era. However, I personally think that the previous studies 過大評価する overevaluate 過大評価しすぎ overestimated Honda Toshizane roles. One of the example is like 正面撃ち起こし. So currently the 正面撃ち起こし is the common and popular way in the All Nippon Kyudo Federation. I can say Kyudo. However, it has not been proved that Honda Toshizane is actually the person who spread the Shomen Uchiokoshi. This kind of like a story has been created by Honda Ryu people themselves. So you have to be careful to look at that history. If we look at the organization of the Honda Toshizane, by the way, he died, he passed away, 大正6年だから、1917? 大正6年、大正6 years, so 1970 if I remember correctly. At that time, Shomen Uchiokoshi was not still current clearly because there is like a strict material that during the Dai Nippon Budokai Enbukai, Dai Nippon Budokai demonstration, one of the people, one of the Hanshi called Mr. Ohira, he searched how many people shooting the Shomen and how many people shooting the Shaman at that time. Shaman was bigger than the Shomen at that time. And Honda Toshizane, he did not have a big organization at that time. So you can think about how to spread the Shomen Usos in the world, in all over Japan. He definitely needs a big organization to do that, but he did not have it. Shomen Uchiokoshi became common after he passed away. So, I personally think that we have to reevaluate the role of Honda Toshizane again. And from my view, what Honda Toshizane made an impact on the Kyudo society at that time is not big much than it was mentioned in the previous study. So yeah, something like we have to evaluate the Honda study role. So this study has not made yet. So this is something like my next project.
Good.
Voy a resumir la respuesta. Este es uno de sus próximos proyectos. La pregunta fue ¿qué rol tuvo Honda Toshizane en esa época? Y es que él dice que no tuvo mucha influencia. De hecho, este no es un personaje muy importante en esa época. No están seguros de que el rumor de que él haya diseminado el estilo shaman sea cierto. Probablemente él o sus seguidores lo empezaron. Y se vuelve famoso ese estilo hasta 1970 cuando él muere. Y cuando hicieron un torneo se vio la diferencia de cuánta gente tira en shaman y cuánta gente tira en shomen. Y la diferencia fue bastante. Entonces, eso fue el resumen.
Okay, let's go to the next question. So from
I answer in Japanese, so Christian will respond.
Oh, Kristen, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, sorry.
Which Kyudo?
So they did not elect to preserve any ryu specifically. They're all preserved and allowed within the Dai Nippon Budokai. The only thing that's really standard is Taihai, and for grading exams and such, they look at both that and the shooting.
だけども、大敗は今みたいに評価の対象にはなってないです。ジャッジの対象にはなってないです。
英語でどうか。
But this is more milder than current Kyudo. So, for instance, in the grading exam, nowadays the Taihai is one of the contents should be judged, right? But at that time, it's not. The Taihai is just to standardize the movement before and after the shooting. So basically, the judge only sees the shooting itself. So that's the thing. So yeah, standardization of the Taihai is more kind of like neutral, like moderate, compared with current Kyudo.
Estaban hablando sobre el Taihai y cómo se ha estandarizado y ellos dicen que es bastante neutral. A ver, la respuesta fue bastante larga. Creo que hasta ahí.
So this question, what kind of people practice and did they need to be educated or be able to afford to join a group? Was this in reference to the Dai Nippon Budokai specifically, or?
彼ですか？
Jeremy じゃなくて Jeanette.
あれ
Bueno, la pregunta es, ¿qué tipo de personas practicaban en ese entonces? Si eran gente educada o podía financiar unirse a un grupo, y están trabajando la respuesta.
You there, Jeanette?
I think she's just referring to early practitioners of Kyudo or Kyujutsu, like before 1900. Yes. Yeah, she confirmed she's interested in the level of person who was practicing prior to 1900. He's having an internal conversation.
So to answer Jeanette's question, before 1900, most of the people that practiced Kyudo were people that were, heavily involved with Bushido. So people that took it very seriously, samurai mainly. And then only after that was it starting to be more popular amongst like the more common people, koto judges and such.
あとは学生キュードですね。
Yeah,
大学生。
and students, college students in particular.
というのは、それは日本の部活の歴史とくっついていて、日本で部活が盛んになるのが、だいたい1800、明治10年代なん、明治10年、20年なんで、1880年代ぐらいから、日本の学校っていうのはスポーツが盛んになってるんです。その流れの中で、弓道も盛んになってるんです。So after the 1880s, in Japan, the sports in the school became more common. So Kyudo also included in the school. So student Kyudo became common after the 1880s. So this is not only Kyudo, also other sports like baseball, judo, kendo, etc. Yeah. And the next question, Dr. Goka, do you have your thesis published or
La respuesta en español.
Sorry.
Gracias. Antes de 1900, la gente que practicaba era gente que estaba involucrada con la vida samurái o con el bushido intensamente, y fue hasta después de esa época que se vuelve más popular entre la gente común y corriente y sobre todo los estudiantes. Pero no nada más el Kyudo, sino otros deportes como el que se llevan a cabo en la escuela, como el béisbol.
Okay, the question, Dr. Goka, do you have your thesis published or as a book online in English? Unfortunately, I'm sorry, no, only in Japanese at this moment. So maybe I can think about it, or maybe Kristen can translate.
I'm trying.
Sorry, yeah. And the Nishikubo was the first to use the word Kyudo. It is not, because we have to think about the word Kyudo itself has been used since Edo era. However, the meaning of the Kyudo is different from what we're using now. At that time, the Kyudo was not the term which describes the Japanese traditional archery. And for instance, one of the example of the usage of the Kyudo is like the lineage of the Kyudo schools or Kyudo family. Yes, yeah, or something like that. Yeah, Ryuha. Another thing is when the Kyudo was used is like this word is used in the Yamato school, which was established in the Edo era. Kyudo was considered one of the subjects under the Kyujutsu. So now you can see very complicated, like the meaning of the Kyudo itself was changing, depends on the error, depends the situation. So when I was asked with was Nishikubo the first to use the word Kyudo, which is the answer is no. However, in terms of the using the term Kyudo, which describes the Japanese traditional archery, Nishikubo and Dai Nippon Budokai is actually the organization or person who made a big influence to popularize the word Kyudo as Japanese traditional archery.
La pregunta fue si Nishikubo fue el primero en utilizar la palabra Kyudo y la respuesta es no. La palabra Kyudo se utilizaba desde la época de Edo, pero el significado ha cambiado según la época. Por ejemplo, una escuela en la época de Edo, el Yamato School, ellos lo tenían como una asignatura dentro de lo que era el Kyujutsu. Así es que sí, depende mucho de la época. Pero como arquería, hasta después de Nishikubo.
Has contemporary Kyudo techniques in much revision since occupation past 1945? I can say yes. Maybe the best way to understand is like, please read the first edition of the Kyudo Kyohon. Then you can see a lot of difference. Yeah, first edition you can see on the online, I think, from the Kokai Toshokan, the library of the Congress.
Yeah.
In Japan, they have a digital archives. So you can just Google, you can see the first edition of the Kyudo Kyohon, and then you can see a lot of difference. Yeah.
Would that be an English translation?
So
I don't think so.
Okay.
So please ask someone who reads Japanese.
yeah, I'll try my best.
La siguiente pregunta es si la técnica del Kyudo actualmente ha visto muchos cambios desde la postocupación en 1945 y la respuesta es sí. Él menciona, se puede revisar la página de internet de la Librería del Congreso en Japón y se puede encontrar la primera edición de el Kyohon, sin embargo solo está en japonés, así es que no está ni en inglés, no se puede hacer la comparación desafortunadamente.
Okay, next question. Thank you for going back to your previous lecture. Could you explain why Kyudo Kake can only be made with natural materials? 政治です、politics です。以上。
It's political, and that's the only reason.
Yeah. Political between the Kyudo Kake maker. Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
La siguiente pregunta es, regresando a la presentación de del mes pasado, preguntan si por qué el kake no puede ser de hecho de otro... ¿Por qué solo puede hacerse con materiales naturales? Y él dice que por razones políticas, no hay más.
Is our modern Kyudo still evolving? How do you think it will change? Can you touch on what the future of Hekiryu style modern Kyudo? 難しいですね。今あんまり日本ではそこまで正面斜面ってもうみんな気にしなくなってるんですかね。気にしていない。Is our modern Kyudo still evolving? How do you think it will change? Can you touch on what's the future of Hekiryu style in modern Kyudo? I personally feel that the difference between shomen and shaman, I mean Hekiryu, Ogasawa, those school, is not really concerned in Japan actually compared with other country. I have been to several countries for the Kyudo seminar. I can see more clearly the people sometimes conflict each other in other countries rather than in Japan. For instance, like the people doesn't care so much in Japan anymore. Like I'm doing the Hekiryu actually, and I'm going to sometimes lecture, a seminar, and also exam. I'm now actually taking Renshi Shinsa. But yeah, in Japan, the people doesn't care so much about the difference between the school anymore. So I'm just wondering, like, yeah, why it became more serious issue, not in Japan, in other country. So, yeah. だからもう流派はなくなっていく、日本ではそういう流派の違いというのはなくなっていく傾向にあります。
Él menciona que la pregunta fue, ¿el Kyudo moderno está evolucionando y cómo piensa que él cambiaría? ¿Y cuál sería, según él, el futuro para el Heikiryu, el estilo de Heikiryu en el Kyudo moderno? Y él dice que la gente en Japón no toma tan en serio la diferencia entre escuelas, sin embargo, tampoco... Sí, no hay diferencias entre escuelas, como que no es tan marcado como en otros países, sí se hace muy clara la diferencia entre escuelas. Él va a tomar próximamente su examen de Renshi.
Majority of Shonen people are originally from Gasa. What are you?
ごめんなさい。これを勘違いさせちゃいましたね。私はそうじゃないと思ってるんですよ。一般的に先行研究では、プリビアススタディでは正面打ち起こしというのは本田流の影響が強いって言うんですよ。でもこれはそういうことは本田流の人しか言ってないんですよね。他の人は言ってないです、こんなこと。
You see what John B. did? You saw the portico before that was over the stairs, right? Gone. Everything. It looks so clean. You did a great job tearing that down.
Sorry, we have background noise. Try to mute that.
いつですか？
何かミュートしてなかった。
ミュートしてないですね。はい。
大丈夫です。
はい。The next question regarding Shomen Uchiokoshi, it sounded like most Shomen Uchiokoshi came from Honda Ryu. However, in current Kyudo society, majority of Shomen people do originate from Ogasawa Ryu, as you see the difference of Ashibumi and some other shows between those two schools of Achiryu. Do you agree? Sorry that I make you misunderstand the spreading of the Shomen Uchiokoshi. So, yes, in previous study mentioned that the Shomen Uchiokoshi was spread by Honda Ryu. However, we have to be careful because this story was created and continuously mentioning by Honda Ryu people only. So you have to. So now what I want to say is like it has not been proved that Honda Toshizane is actually the person who spread Shomen Uchiokoshi in Kyudo. This is something like I have to research in my next project because during my PhD thesis, by the way, I researched modern history to get a PhD degree. During my study of the PhD thesis, I realized that there are several factors why Shomen Uchiokoshi became common. For instance, like some people, some Kyudoka at the time mentioned in the historical document said that this is due to the Ogasawara school influences. Because used to be the head of Kyudo teacher in Dai Nippon Butokukai was from Ogasawara, from Yamato school, which is basically the same technique as Heikiryu. When he passed away, and in 1920s, Mr. Kiyomichi Ogasawara became the head instructor of the Dai Nippon Butokai in headquarters. Then people said a lot of people changed from Yamato Ryu to Ogasawara school to get good Dan and Q gradings. Yeah, so I found this kind of historical document a lot actually. And also another element is like the influence of the physical education theory at that time in Japan. At that time, one of the theory which is a big great influence on the Japanese physical education philosophy is that everything must be balanced. So if we look at the physical education in the school, PE school, in the PE curriculum, Swedish gymnastics, which is very efficient and make the balance of each body, put more importance on the Japanese education. Then some of the Shomen archers started to argue that the Shomen Uchiokoshi is more beneficial to train their body equally in right side and left side. And this theory became very common, and a lot of people start to change from shaman to shaman. 1940s, there was a research made by the military academy that shaman uchokoshi is good to train the upper part of the body rather than the shaman uchokoshi. Of course, from the current latest scientific point of view, that paper is not really good. However, at that time, it was believed that the shaman uchokoshi is more good for the physical education. So we have to think about those, the essence and how to merge and research it. So I'm sorry to say that I haven't made this research done yet, so I will do that. And once we did it, I will let you know. Can I answer your question, Mr. or Miss Yoshi Yamagami?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Erika-san, do you need to translate into Spanish? Maybe next time. Okay. We don't have much time, right? So 7 or 6 or let's. I want
Last one.
One more question.
so sorry, it's gonna be last one. So Mr. from Kanetan, thank you for sharing all this information. I was wondering if you were able to describe what the basis of philosophy of Kyudo has come from. Is it something that was created post World War II, or does it have a long history? So again, it's really hard to say. It is not simple. Not only Kyudo, most of the Japanese traditional culture is multi-layered and complex. So several sources gathers and create current philosophy. So for instance, today's my presentation, like even the difference between the Kyujutsu and the Kyudo, there are several theories, and this is still continue now. One of the example is like Kyujutsu Club, it still exists. And Tokyo, University of Tokyo, which is the most famous university in Japan, right? They are also still using a Kyujutsu Club instead of Kyudo. So now you can see, like, we cannot see Jujutsu Club or Kenjutsu Club anymore, but Kyujutsu Club is still exists. So comparing with other Budo, like Judo and Kendo, Kyujutsu and Kyudo, Jutsu to Judo in Japanese archery is more complex and more multi-layers compared with other martial arts disciplines. So yeah, it has a long history, but always renew, updated, and added another factor and create current definition, the philosophy of the Kyudo. So we cannot clearly see one simple answer to answer this question.
All right. Thank you, Professor Goka. We really appreciate your kind and informative discussion today. We had a really good audience. We had about 60 people in the audience. And thanks also to Erica-san for doing all of the Spanish translations. This recording will be shared to everyone afterward, and it will be uploaded on the AKR YouTube link. So please give us a few days and we'll get that uploaded. And anyone who missed it can watch it after the fact. So thanks again.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate. And those who come to Japan next week, I and Kristen will be there in Meiji Shrine. So yeah, we'll see you soon. And I just sent you the first edition of the Kyudo Kyohon on the chat meeting. So if you are interested, you can download it. Kyudo Kyohon. But unfortunately, it's in Japanese, so you can ask someone to translate into English. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hunter says bye too.
Hi, Hunter.
はい。
その
Hunter's still in Japan.
Yeah, yeah.
I was wondering where he was.
Oh, yeah, I went up to Tsukuba, so, yeah.
Where's I'm not seeing it in the chat.
I'll be in your recording.
Ah, there we are.
The